Welcome aboard Podcast Cruise, where every episode is a voyage into the unknown. Join us as we explore the depths of mystics, mediums, and the metaphysical. From extraordinary near-death experiences to the secrets of the universe, we uncover the mysteries that leave you questioning reality. No faces, no frills, just captivating stories and profound insights to stir your soul. So grab your favorite beverage or set your cruise control to the legal speed limit and journey with us beyond the veil, one episode at a time. Let's welcome our hosts, Jake Hart and Zara Moon, as they dive into captivating discussions and the mysteries that shape our world. You are listening to Podcast Cruise.
Welcome to today's deep dive. You guys shared this amazing story about Nancy Ryan and her near-death experience.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of unpack it together, go through it. I mean, she starts as this staunch atheist, rooted in science and logic,
Right.
and ends up embracing spirituality and the idea that, this earthly life, this is all an illusion.
It's a complete 180, It really shows you how these intense experiences can completely reshape how you see the world. It is interesting though. She wasn't always an atheist, right?
Right.
She had this childhood where she saw God everywhere, She was very spiritually curious, but things changed as she got older.
Yeah, I mean, her community was really rocked by all those reports of abuse by priests when she was a teenager.
Right.
It just totally shattered her faith, led her to reject religion and spirituality altogether.
Totally. It makes sense, how disillusioning that must have been. And that rejection really pushed her toward this more rational, scientific way of thinking. So she goes and pursues a career in science, gets her degrees in geology, worked for the Department of Energy, and eventually finds her passion in scientific writing.
Wow.
By her mid-20s, full-blown atheist. What a change from that little girl who saw God in every tree,
Yeah, it really is. It's like she went on this complete journey from wonder to, like you said, hardcore skepticism.
Yeah.
And then in her mid-40s, she finds herself living in Boulder, Colorado,
Okay.
feeling a bit lost. Her marriage had just ended, searching for some kind of direction in her life.
Yeah.
And then, bam.
Bicycle accident.
Yeah, the bicycle accident just changes everything.
Changes everything, right. So she was just riding her bike to the library, just normal errands and stuff.
A normal day.
And she gets hit by an SUV. Driver was distracted, texting.
Oh, wow.
Impact was really bad. Cracked collarbone, broken ribs, collapsed lung. And the scariest injuries were to her neck and back.
And knowing how afraid she was of death, to be facing major surgery with all those injuries, that had to be terrifying.
Absolutely. She knew, she said every single process in her back was cracked. Her vertebrae were messed up.
Oh, man.
The fear must have been just overwhelming. It's kind of ironic considering what happened next,
Yeah, talk about facing your fears head on, right?
Yeah.
So she's wheeled into surgery. Anesthesiologist gives her the anesthesia. And instead of just drifting off, into the black,
Right.
she finds herself in this vibrant meadow
Wow.
on a hillside overlooking these gorgeous mountains. Not exactly what you expect in an operating room.
No. It's interesting how many NDEs, like you said, they're so vivid, these beautiful, often natural settings. But for her, it wasn't just the scenery, it was this feeling, this overwhelming sense of peace, acceptance, and unconditional love.
Wow.
Just washing over her. It was like a full sensory and emotional immersion.
It makes you wonder if these, settings are symbolic somehow, or maybe tailored to what each person finds comforting, peaceful.
That's a good question. It's something researchers are still trying to figure out. But going back to Nancy, her first thought was, I must have died. But that clashed with her atheism, and all that fear of hell that she still had from being raised Catholic. It's fascinating, this inner struggle, right? To experience something that just totally goes against everything you believe.
Absolutely. And as she's dealing with all of this, a voice, it seemed to come from just the air around her.
Wow.
It addresses her unspoken question, welcomes her home, tells her she's part of something bigger.
Welcome home. That phrase, it just triggered all these realizations for her, it unlocked a door she didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
And that's when it really hits her. Her whole life, everything she knew, it was just an illusion compared to this reality she was experiencing now.
That's mind-blowing, to have your entire worldview shattered in an instant, and then a figure starts to appear out of the fog.
Yeah. This figure, vaguely human-looking, long hair, becomes her guide in this realm. But she never actually sees their face. It's interesting, it makes you think maybe the focus was meant to be on the lessons, not the individual.
Right, maybe to avoid distractions, make it more universal, or maybe highlight that the knowledge being shared, it's impersonal.
It's hard to say for sure, but it does make you think, what we do know is this guide was like her teacher, there to help her learn what she needed, to return to her life and make it worth living. This wasn't just a tour of the afterlife. This was a personalized curriculum for growth.
And what better place to start than revealing that our lives on Earth are not just random events, but journeys chosen by our souls before we're even born.
Yeah.
That's a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And it was shown to her as like a movie, a vision.
Like a movie, yeah. And the guide explained it's like a trailer for her life, a peek at the script she agreed to before stepping onto the stage, so to speak. Think about that for a minute. Does that change how you see your own struggles, your own triumphs? Does it give you more of a sense of agency knowing that maybe you had a say in those challenges you face?
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure. It also makes you wonder, why would we choose certain paths, especially the difficult ones?
Right. And that's where the idea of different paths leading to the same destination comes in. She was shown this map of her life, all these different paths, the one she had taken, the one she could have taken, and they all led to the same point. So maybe there isn't one right path, just multiple journeys that all lead us to the growth we're supposed to have.
That's reassuring. It means, like, instead of getting hung up on the what ifs, maybe it's about trusting that where we are, it's exactly where we need to be.
Exactly. Focus on the lessons and the growth, regardless of the specific path. But understanding our impact on others, that's a crucial part of growing. And that's where her experience by the pond comes in, what she called the life review.
Oh, yeah, the part where she relives key moments from her life and actually feels the emotions of everyone involved. Tell me more about that.
So she's by this peaceful mountain pond with her guide.
Okay.
And as she touches the water, ripples form. But these ripples, they're special. Each one has this pocket, like a tiny screen,
Wow.
showing a moment from her life.
Okay.
And when she focuses on one, she's not just watching, she's back in that moment, reliving it from her perspective, but, and this is important, feeling the emotions of everyone else who was there too.
So she's not just seeing her actions, but actually feeling their impact on other people.
Exactly, like experiencing karma in real time, but on this emotional level. It was this very real understanding of how our actions have a ripple effect, both good and bad. She talked about one specific example that really stayed with her, something from when she was a teenager. She had an argument with her younger sister.
What happened?
Well, during the argument, she said something really hurtful just to get her sister to leave her alone. In the heat of the moment, she didn't think much of it.
Right.
But during this life review, she felt the sting of her words from her sister's perspective.
Oh.
That must have been incredibly powerful, to not just see the pain you caused, but to actually feel it. It feels like the kind of thing that could change how you interact with everyone, Did it change her? It totally did. The life review was a deep lesson in how to be more conscious in how we interact with each other and how much of a lasting impact we have on the people around us. It made her much more mindful of her words, her actions, the energy she brought to everything. It was like she was seeing the world with new eyes that showed her how interconnected everything and everyone really is.
It makes you think, what if we could all experience something like that? Would we all be more compassionate? Would we all be more careful with our words,
It's an interesting thought. But Nancy's journey doesn't end there. She still has to figure out how to go back to her earthly life. A transition that wasn't easy.
I can only imagine. Going from that peace and understanding back to the limitations of this world.
Right.
Must have been quite a shock. We'll get into all of that in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
It's wild, She felt like she was there for an eternity, but also like just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It really makes you think, like, our whole concept of time, maybe it's totally limited.
Right. A construct of our physical reality.
Right.
It really makes you wonder about, like, what time is even, like, outside of those constraints?
Mm-hmm.
Is it linear? Is it circular? Does it even exist at all? But here's the thing. Just when she was starting to get comfortable in this new reality, her guide tells her it's time to go back. I mean, after such an incredible experience, Who would want to go back to the normal, everyday world?
Yeah, she wasn't exactly thrilled, to put it mildly. In fact, she actually thought about running away from her guide, tried desperately to stay, but the guide, gently but firmly, sent her back to her body.
Waking up in that recovery room, I bet it felt like a nightmare after all that.
Yeah, it was. She woke up screaming, yelling for her guide, totally distraught to be back in her physical body. She even asked the nurses to send her guide back,
Oh, wow.
not realizing they had no clue what she was talking about, of course.
You can just imagine, right? Trying to explain something so unbelievable, something that defies all logic and reason, and nobody gets it. It's
Yeah.
gotta be incredibly frustrating.
Totally. And I mean, the hospital staff, they thought she was having some kind of, psychotic break. Understandably, once she realized nobody was understanding her, her rational mind kicked in and she decided to just stay quiet.
So she's back in this world that she now sees as an illusion and surrounded by people who can't comprehend what she went through. That must have been so isolating. It sounds like she really needed someone, anyone, to understand her.
And that's where the hospital chaplain comes in, this really compassionate Lutheran woman. She visited Nancy and just listened to her, no judgment.
Mhm.
And she was the one who told her that what she went through was a near-death experience, an NDE. It was the first time Nancy had even heard that term.
I can't imagine what a relief it must have been to finally have somebody acknowledge her experience, to tell her she wasn't losing it. It sounds like this chaplain, she was really crucial in Nancy's journey back to, well, quote-unquote reality, right?
It was a turning point for sure. The chaplain helped her understand that NDEs, they're a real thing, gave her resources, a sense of normalcy. But this validation, it also brought up a new challenge,
Oh.
how to integrate this experience into her life.
She's got a decision to make.
Yeah.
Go back to her old life, pretend it never happened, or embrace this new understanding and step into the unknown.
It was a real crossroads. And Nancy, even though she was afraid, she chose the path less traveled, decided to follow the wisdom, the wisdom from her NDE, and it led to some pretty amazing changes.
Like what? Did her whole perspective just like shift right away? Did she start seeing everything differently?
It was gradual, but the changes were huge. For one, she recovered from her injuries crazy fast, like way faster than the doctors expected, out of her body cast in just 2 days.
2 days.
They thought it would take 16 weeks.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you think maybe her new mindset, the peace, the acceptance, did that play a role in her healing? Like there's so much research on that mind-body connection, right?
It's definitely possible. It's a powerful connection. We're still learning about it, but yeah. She also started meditating daily, trying to connect with that deeper awareness she felt during her NDD, focused on gratitude, finding joy in just, simple things, being able to walk.
She basically replaced fear with acceptance and appreciation. What a beautiful transformation. Did she ever go back to her science career?
She did, but with a totally different perspective. The material world, it didn't have that same hold on her anymore. She wasn't as driven by those external achievements. She was more focused on living a life guided by love and compassion.
And how about her relationships? Did this shift affect how she connected with people? It seems like after experiencing that kind of like deep connection and empathy, it would change how you interact with others.
Absolutely. She became so mindful of her interactions, always remembering that life review, remembering how much our actions affect others. She was less reactive, less caught up in drama, more present in each moment.
You mentioned earlier that Nancy started calling life a near-life experience, the term her guide used. What do you think she meant by that?
It's an interesting way to think about it, right? It really emphasizes how temporary this physical existence is. Like this life, it's just one chapter in a much bigger story.
It really makes you think, if this life is just a brief chapter, what becomes really important then? What's the whole point?
That's the question Nancy wrestled with. And the answer she found, it was simple, but also incredibly profound.
Don't leave us hanging. What was it?
Well, she realized the purpose was to learn to live from a place of love and compassion for all.
Wow.
It's simple, but so powerful, you know?
Yeah.
And it echoes like so many spiritual teachings, no matter the religion.
It does. It really speaks to our shared humanity, right?
Yeah.
Our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Like that saying, we're all just walking each other home.
Exactly. And while Nancy's experience was, extraordinary, the lessons she came back with, those are universal. They resonate with anyone trying to live a more meaningful life. A reminder that even with all the struggles and pain, there's this underlying current of love and purpose that connects us all.
It's truly inspiring. But it also makes me wonder, like those of us who haven't had an NDE, can we still tap into that same sense of peace, that connection? Do we have to go through something so dramatic to wake up to these truths?
Not at all. We don't need a life-altering event to access those insights.
Hmm.
Nancy's story, it's like an invitation. It encourages us to explore our own beliefs, to question our fears, and to really cultivate a more loving and compassionate way of being in the world.
So it's about making conscious choices.
Right.
Right. Being present, recognizing the impact we have, approaching life with intention, not just going through the motions.
Exactly. And, it brings us back to this growing body of near-death experience accounts. Like Nancy's, they challenge how we understand consciousness, reality. They raise these really interesting questions about what happens after we die, the nature of the soul, the possibility of spiritual growth.
It's a topic that's always fascinated me. It's like a reminder of how much we don't know, how much there is to explore beyond what we currently understand.
That's the beauty of it. It's an invitation to delve deeper, to question, to stay open to possibilities beyond our current understanding.
Like standing at the edge of this uncharted territory,
Yeah.
filled with awe and this thirst for discovery. It's humbling and exciting at the same time.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Nancy Ryan's incredible experience, we want to leave you with one last thought-provoking question. If life is a temporary experience, a near-life experience, as her guide put it, how does that change your choices, your priorities? What really matters to you? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
It's a lot to consider, but Nancy's story, it reminds us that maybe the answers are closer than we think. Maybe, like Nancy, you'll find yourself on this path of transformation, one that leads to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Thanks for joining us on this amazing deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Thank you for cruising with us on Podcast Cruise. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us bring you more intriguing and thought-provoking podcasts. Stay curious, and we'll see you on the next adventure.